Should all FPL managers be avoiding Cunha with the transfer speculation that's going on ahead of game week 34? Who should we buy between Barnes and Murphy? And is Palmer actually essential for our game week 34 teams? These are all the things that I'll be covering off in today's video. So as always, if you're looking forward to it, make sure to drop a like and of course hit that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So first up, I think it's important with today's video looking at who we should be buying to just identify for game week 34 in isolation, especially those managers going for a free hit, who are the players that we think are just absolutely essential and have to be included in some capacity on those free hit teams. And don't worry, if you've not got your free hit active, we'll still be talking about players that you need to buy for game week 34 and beyond, and also those wildcard picks. So don't be clicking off this video. So I have highlighted literally only 4 players for a game week 34 free hit essential list, and that is going to include Leno away against Southampton in goal. I think it's a fantastic fixture, and at 5 million it's a decent price point. We got 8-Nori at home against Leicester. I think the capacity that he has for both clean sheets and attacker returns means that it's just a non-negotiable really, even if you don't want to start him in this free hit team. Of course, we've got Mo Salah at home against Spurs. If you could pick a fixture, it probably would be this one. Spurs' mind completely focused on the Europa League, while Liverpool can win the league against Spurs. It's an absolute home run fixture for Liverpool. And then, of course, we've got Alexander Isak at home against Ipswich, which again, I'd like to think Newcastle will bounce back after that terrible performance against Aston Villa, and where better to do it than against Ipswich at home. So those 4 for me, I think whether you want to start them or not, kind of need to be in your game week 34 free hit team. Outside of that, I really do think these positions are up for grabs, but I think it's actually a bit more locked than other managers are maybe perceiving. Regardless of what you are doing, I think we all naturally have a similar combination of players. So what I've highlighted here is that I think everybody's going to have a Newcastle defender starting. I'm seeing some people go for Nick Pope between the sticks. I don't mind it, but with Trippier, Livramento and Fabian Schär actually offering some sort of attacking potential and bonus baseline, I think it's a bit of a waste going for Pope between the sticks. So I think somebody from Newcastle, will discuss those in today's video. I think a Fulham defender as well. Sessegnon versus Robinson really is a debate right now. Some managers go for double Fulham defence, some going for none. But regardless, because Sessegnon's so cheap, I think you'll be having some sort of Fulham coverage in that defence. Outside of that, we're looking at people like Trent out there. We're looking at other people like Cucurella, but I don't think they're essentials in a free hit draft. In terms of the midfielders, I spoke about this in a previous video. I think it's really difficult to pinpoint the best midfielders. Now, regardless, I think a Newcastle midfielder is a no-brainer. And in this video, we'll look at Murphy versus Barnes because that's the big debate right now. But outside of that, we got people like Mbeumo away against Forest. Not incredible, but with 12 days rest for Brentford and Forest having attention on the FA Cup and also a busy fixture schedule, could be a great game for Mbeumo. Also, Cole Palmer, we're going to talk about him because he is the major omission right now on this essentials list. And then, of course, we've got other people who are Luis Diaz, Kluivert, but again, not essential on a free hit draft. And again, in terms of the forwards, Isak locked in as we discussed. And I think a Wolves forward, whether that be Cunha or Strand Larsen, again, we'll discuss that. But then the third forward is really up for grabs. I think Raul Jimenez is good. But also I think you could play a 2 up top and 5 in midfield. So I just want to start this video by highlighting the players that I think are essential in your teams, but also the structure in place that needs to be where I think every manager is going to go. So which Wolves forward should we buy in for both free hit in game week 34 and just generally between now and the end of the season? Because this isn't just a game week 34 free hit decision. When you look at the fixtures here for Wolves between now and the end of the season, I really do think they're just a good buy in general for FPL managers out there. So just to kind of highlight, Strand Larsen, bit cheaper, 5.4 million and slightly less owned at 8.3%. Cunha, on the other hand, 6.9 million, so a bit more expensive, 11.6%. Now, with the likes of the premiums out there, like De Bruyne, Haaland, and Saka not included in a free hit in game week 34, I don't think you have to worry about budget, and I don't think you have to downgrade Cunha to Strand Larsen. You will have the money to buy Cunha. But in terms of actually managers not free hitting and just buying a player in general, I do think we have to take into account the price difference in that scenario. So First up, the underlying numbers. I don't think anybody really bats an eyelid here. If you can afford it, and we think Cunha is going to play the exact same minutes as Strand Larsen, I'm going to have a spoiler alert here. I think Cunha is just the best pick. We know historically he's just a straight up baller. He's fantastic on the baseline, and that's the real differential thing between good FPL picks and fantastic ones. All Cunha has to do is really pick up an assist, and he usually is top bonus, and that takes him up from maybe a 6-pointer to that 9-pointer. And those are the players that we want, those high ceiling picks for our teams. Now, when we take a look at the actual underlying numbers, it's worth noting when Strand Larsen plays, the numbers are good. 0.36 expected goals per 90 compared to Cunha's 0.3. Then when we delve a bit deeper into the shot capacity, double that of Strand Larsen for Cunha at 3.58. Shots on target, not really much in it. Shots in the box is worth noting. I think Cunha probably has that perception of being a long shot merchant, but he still has more, well, just a bit more than that of Strand Larsen, who's very much more of a box dominant player. And in terms of the creativity side of things, there should be no surprises here that Cunha leads the way. He is very much that all-round player in the Wolves team. And as I discussed, from a Game Week 34 isolation pick for a free hit, a no-brainer. At home against Leicester, relegated, you don't have to overthink it. I think you have to have a forward. Long-term though, while Game Week 35 is a little bit difficult, and one would argue Game Week 37, I think in general the fixtures are good enough that if you're not free hitting this week but looking to buy long-term, you can buy a Wolves forward and be content with it. I think they're great value. So who should you buy? So I think personally for Game Week 34, it is a no-brainer, is Cunha. The problem is the transfer speculation that's going around right now. Fabrizio Romano tweeting about how Cunha is going to go to Man United. And with Vitor Pereira obviously planning for next season, could we see a situation where Bellegarde comes back into the Wolves team, takes the place of Cunha, and we go again with this Wolves team that is basically Cunha-less, who comes on for 20-minute cameos where they prepare themselves for next season? That is definitely a possibility. I think if you're on a free hit Game Week 34, I think you take the punt and go for Cunha. I think he is the better pick in general. However, I think if I was buying long-term part of a wild card, I still think the answer is Cunha, but I would be a little bit more stressed about that situation. We've seen the ties between Cunha and Wolves be divided. Could it happen again between now and Game Week 38? I think it could. And at a cheaper price with guaranteed minutes, I think Strand Larsen offers you a great value pick between now and the end of the season. So to conclude, I think you take the punt on Cunha and you go for him on your free hit. He's just that baller that you kind of want in your team. If I was going long term though, I would almost be tempted to take Strand Larsen at a cheaper price and maybe have that assumption that at times, maybe they are going to look to play without Cunha to adapt for next season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but I think Cunha is the pick for Game Week 34 free hit. Next up, we got to address the elephant in the room. That is going to be Cole Palmer, where we have not seen that celebration in a long old time for Chelsea. And going into Game Week 34 is a really interesting conundrum for managers out there. For those that are free hitting, they're asking themselves, well, we've got all this money available. Surely it's a no-brainer to own somebody like Cole Palmer at home against Everton. Other managers who are not using a chip are asking themselves, can I keep this guy long term? So first up, I want to address the Cole Palmer situation if you're not playing a chip and you don't have anything available. I think it's quite simple. I think you keep him for Game Week 34 at home against Everton. You roll the dice one more time. We need to remember that some of the premiums in the game aren't available to you in 34, like Saka, even people like De Bruyne. You can't really go there. So I think you keep him for one last time. You hope for the best. But I do think for Game Week 35 onwards, a downgrade to somebody like a Brian Mbeumo, if you don't own already, is just an absolute non-negotiable, easy move. He could perform in some of the games coming up, but I think they are absolutely difficult enough to say to yourselves, this is the last game week of Cole Palmer. And I think those managers that, of course, free hitting in Game Week 34 will be quite happy to see him gone after this. However, for Game Week 34 in isolation, I do think there is an argument to have him in your team. A couple of pros here, and they're not as big as I actually thought they would be. We need to remember Everton are a good team. They are a really good team. David Moyes is doing a fantastic job. But with Tarkowski now injured, we don't have that combination of Branthwaite and Tarkowski at the back. We are going to most likely have a combination of Branthwaite and Michael Keane. And Michael Keane is a recipe for disaster in terms of FPL defence and usually a place of points for attackers. So I think the Tarkowski injury is a big factor. And also we need to remember in terms of Cole Palmer, and when we're buying free hit players, I want somebody that offers you guaranteed minutes and different routes for points. And even though Cole Palmer has been pretty awful recently, we still need to remember he's on some set pieces. He is still the penalty taker in this Chelsea team. I know he missed his last one, and he offers us guaranteed minutes. That is really important when we're looking at a game week 34 free hit player. And he offers all of that. The problem is there are some downsides. No goal since game week 21, which is just blows my mind at that thought. He has picked up 3 assists over that period, but it's not good enough. 10.6 million, we want a goal scorer. That just hasn't come to fruition in this Chelsea team. The other problem is Chelsea are unpredictable. I'm a Chelsea fan, and I can say that on my chest here, that they are unpredictable. When that goal alert came up against Fulham, I think everybody expected a comfortable 2-0 victory for Fulham. We walk away winning 2-1, but no involvement from Cole Palmer. It's just very hard to pinpoint where the points are coming from in this Chelsea team. It looks like Cucurella is the man who's stepping up at times in this Chelsea team. So I don't think you're buying a player that has absolute certainty of if Chelsea win, he is the main man. It's very much changed. And finally, we've got to ask ourselves, is there better value in this Chelsea team? I spoke about it. I don't think the free hit is concerned about budget. I think you can afford Palmer and not worry about it. But Neto taking a lot of set pieces for Chelsea and very much being a minutes pick now, he could be a great differential for those that are looking to climb rank. And also someone like a Madueke as well offers some sort of value. I would probably have Neto over Madueke myself, but the problem is I don't rate Neto really from a finishing perspective. So all in all, I think Cole Palmer is worth the punt in a free hit game week 34. Yes, in hindsight, we'll probably look back at this. I'll record this video in a week's time and I'll say to myself, when do we learn? He's just been terrible for a long time. But I also do think for a 1 game week punt against Everton, who are missing one of their best defenders, there is opportunity here to have one last hurrah with Cole Palmer. And while other managers are selling him, it could be a great opportunity to have a bit of a differential in your teams. And it's why I think he is going to be in my game week 34 free hit, but I understand why he is divided in opinion. So the other big decision that we need to make in our game week 34 free hits and also just long-term investments is which Newcastle midfielder to own alongside Alexander Isak, because I'm seeing some people go for double Newcastle defense. I totally get it. Ipswich at home is a fantastic fixture, and would I be surprised if you were to walk away with a Livramento clean sheet, maybe an assist, and also a Trippier clean sheet and assist? Absolutely not. I do think there is an argument to go down that route, but also in Newcastle's recent results at home being fantastic, scoring goals. If Isak scores, unless you captain, you're not really benefiting from those points. So I think you probably do need a midfielder alongside it. And I do argue, why wouldn't you, with these players really stepping up over the last few weeks? Now, the two that we're going to look at is going to be Jacob Murphy at 5.2 million and Harvey Barnes at 6 million. I know some people are talking about Anthony Gordon. Until I actually see him start, I can't justify it right now. But Anthony Gordon absolutely is a player that we do have to think about in our decision making between these two. Now, first up, for those managers that are looking to invest long term, I wouldn't be put off from some of these fixture teams that they have. I mean, Brighton away, they've had their defensive frailties. Chelsea at home, trust me, is a great fixture. Arsenal away, of course, difficult. But if Arsenal progress in the Champions League and second place is locked up, I don't see any sort of concern about that fixture. We just saw Palace score 2 against Arsenal. And then, of course, Everton on the final day of the season. I don't think that's terrible either. So long term, I think they're perfectly fine picks. The problem with these two is, long term, who loses their place eventually to Anthony Gordon? Because it will happen. I'm almost certain of it. Anthony Gordon will eventually come back into this Newcastle team, and he will take significant minutes away from one of these two. So when we take a look at the numbers right now for the course of the season, they very much match up to how I perceive the players. Harvey Barnes, whenever he plays, is very much just last line of defence, goal scorer. And that matches it here. XG per 90, 0.45. Fantastic. Shots per 90, double that of Jacob Murphy. And whenever you watch Jacob Murphy, I would say he's probably a better footballer, links up the play better, a bit more creative, and that matches with the underlying numbers here. So from a game week 34 perspective, in isolation, I think I prefer Harvey Barnes because I don't love him long term at all. But as a 1 game week punt, I do think he offers real good opportunities for managers, and it's 7.8% ownership as well. You just get that little bit more excited when he does score a goal as opposed to Jacob Murphy. It's also worth noting that of recent weeks, and it's always been the case with Jacob Murphy, very much a 60, 70-minute substitute. Now, I do think Harvey Barnes is also susceptible to early substitutions. That is not saying that at all. But what we've seen recently is that Murphy's been coming off for Anthony Gordon as opposed to Harvey Barnes. So just keep that in the back of your minds right now. I think Murphy's fantastic, but if we are to look at what happened recently, it's him that's coming off early as opposed to Harvey Barnes. And with Barnes' returns recently, I don't see why that's going to change anytime soon. I don't see why Barnes is suddenly going to drop down to the bench. So for me, if I was investing long term, I actually would be concerned about both of these right now. I don't really know who is going to lock down their place between now and the end of the season. But if I was looking for game week 34 in isolation, and maybe that is your strategy right now, I think I'm leaning towards Harvey Barnes. Bit more of a differential pick. I think he is the one that I want in terms of the goal scorer in this team based on the underlying numbers. And I think he is the one that I just want for 1 week and they can get back out. Let me know your pick in the comment section, but I'm currently leaning towards Barnes. So we've looked at those game week 34 free hit essentials. We looked at the comparisons between Newcastle mids, Wolves forwards, and a discussion on Cole Palmer. We could be here for days, I'm going to be honest with you, looking at each individual player slide by slide. So I thought this last part was quite important because there are still so many players to cover off, and I want to give you my general opinion on each one in a bit more of a condensed version. So I do apologise, no fancy graphics here, but trust me, this is going to be a lot better than going through each player individually on a separate slide. So we're going to fly through the players that I think are left on this watch list and a bit of a comparison. It's worth noting I haven't included goalkeepers. I apologise to the goalkeeper union out there, but we're sticking with the outfield players. If you want goalkeepers, I think Leno's still fantastic, and of course a lot of teams. But we'll touch on that when we come to my team selection tomorrow. So I just want to go through the defenders firstly. We have got of consideration Kirkes, Trent, Trippier, Cucurella and Sessegnon. Again, if you missed the start of the video, Aït-Nouri I've deemed just an important part of your back five, and then we've spoken about how a Fulham defender, Newcastle defender is really important. So first up in terms of Kirkes, personally, I think it is a player that we don't need to have in our team necessarily. Yes, it is a decent enough fixture at home against Man United, and I do think Man United are pretty bad, but we also need to remember that Bournemouth are not in the great best of form right now. Yes, of course, they have had a draw in the last few. Defensively, a bit more sound. But I don't look at Kirkes and say to myself, this is the player that I need to have as part of my back three. Because we're all going to play back threes in our free hits. I think it's perfectly fine as a bench option. But if you are benching it, then I'll just say to yourself, go for Huijsen. Offers a bit of attacking potential as well. I don't think you need all of the 5.3 million in Kirkes unless you're starting him. Now, Trent is the really big one right now that a lot of managers are scratching their heads over because came on late in the game against Leicester to win them the game. Of course, they can win the league against Spurs in game week 34. Are they just going to play him because he is their best defender? Simple as that. I think he starts. However, on a free hit, do you really want to take that risk that he might come on for the last 30 minutes where he could do well, but 30 minutes of Trent versus all of the other defenders in the game? The more I think about it, the more I think it's a risk probably not worth taking. Personally, I think Liverpool win that game pretty comfortably. It's a fantastic fixture to have against Spurs. If Slot comes out and says Trent's ready to go, he's our best right back, he will be playing, then I think he's going to be in everybody's free hit. But unless we get that clarification, unfortunately, I don't think Trent is essential in these free hits. I think he's a luxury pick, but you know the risk that you are taking. Because similar to Cunha, they got to prepare without Trent possibly. They might just look at Bradley and say, we trust you, you're playing in the biggest game of the season to win us the league. Next up, Trippier. We spoke about Newcastle defence, how I think it's important. People really have Livramento. Of course, Dan Burn is in other teams, but less exciting. And Fabian Schär is potentially injured, but we don't really know the status of that right now. I do think Trippier is a good pick. However, looking at these early substitutions, I'm a little bit concerned, but I fully expect him to play another 75 minutes. The underlying numbers, though, are not great. We're not looking at a Kieran Trippier right now that racked up all of his assists like he did in previous seasons. I like Kieran Trippier. I think he's good at 5.6 million, but for me, I'd rather just have Livramento, to be honest with you. I don't see anything from Trippier to justify going for him over that of possibly Livramento. But the one thing I will say is, again, if you're chasing rank, these little differences, 5.3% owned, if he's the one to get the bonus points and the assist as opposed to Livramento, that just doubles it down. And I do think he is a perfect example of Trippier versus Livramento. I do get it why people go Trippier. Slightly less owned, slightly riskier, but slightly more exciting as a pick. Now, in terms of the other defenders, Cucurella, I just don't rate Chelsea at all. And I'm a Chelsea fan. I think defensively we're still woeful. But what Cucurella does offer is attacking potential. We've seen that against Southampton and Leicester at home. And he still put up some good numbers between now and then. I don't mind people going Cucurella at all at 5.4 million. I do think he offers both the clean sheet and attacking potential that managers are looking for. Maybe being a biased Chelsea fan, I look at this and think this isn't a guaranteed win at all against Everton. However, if I am looking at a defender that offers both attacking and clean sheet potential, he's got to be right up there. And the more I think about it, the more I do like Cucurella as a pick. Final defender is going to be Sessegnon. Now, we have got the legendary 1 FDR rating for Southampton. But Southampton have been good for a goal recently. And I don't think the Southampton clean sheet is as the Fulham clean sheet is as locked in as other managers are perceiving. With Sessegnon, the minutes have been good enough. There's a lot of talk that this substitution in game week 33 was an accidental one. So don't be too concerned about that. However, 4.1 million is fantastic. 2.2% owned is incredible. And I do think Sessegnon is worth the punt in your teams, just being in your team. However, we do need to remember a certain Robinson at 4.8 who is going to give you guaranteed minutes every single game. And I do think we need to remember Robinson has got 10 assists this season. So while Sessegnon is the new shiny toy, if you have the money, I equally think Robinson is as good of a pick. I just get it. The ownership is a bit more and you want that real exciting choice of Sessegnon. But I think Robinson is actually the play this week. Moving into the midfielders, I said I'll try and be quick here. We're already 5 minutes in. I'll try and fly through these. Mbeumo, this is the biggest divide in the community right now. Let me tell you why people are going for Mbeumo. Forest are playing on Sunday in the FA Cup semi-final, then play on Thursday against Brentford, who will have 12 days rest in preparation for this game. So that is the main reason why people are going for Bryan Mbeumo right now, because Brentford are a decent team. He is the talisman, he's on penalties, and Forest are going to be much more fatigued than that of Brentford. The counter argument, of course, is that Forest are just a really good team, chasing Champions League football, and they might just completely stink up the joint, play counter-attacking football, and Brentford might find it hard to break them down. I personally think Mbeumo is one of those picks where a lot of managers are going to by default go there because the midfielders aren't incredible, and I think from an ownership perspective, you're going to be really frustrated if you free hit. Mbeumo gets another double-digit return, and those managers that didn't free hit are the ones that actually benefit from this game week. In terms of Kluivert, I totally get it. I think he should be one of your 5 midfielders. And I think from a long-term perspective, I don't love him apart from game week 38. However, for this game against Man United, who I think are still pretty damn woeful, and of course their eyes are now set on Europa League, I think he is a good pick. Coming back from injury, he would be my choice in that Bournemouth team, and he would be in the 5 regardless. The big one right now is going to be Luis Diaz. I'm going to be honest. The minutes have been good. Really good. This I feel like was just a general resting because of minutes played prior to that. And I think if you are going to have a piece of this game, you do want the Liverpool double up. However, can I guarantee you Luis Diaz 90 minutes? No. But I do think we get 70 minutes. And with the underlying numbers that he does put up, when he plays, he's fantastic. And I do think this is the pick this week. If you're brave enough to go there and you think his minutes are going to be good, I do think Luis Diaz is that guy who could rack up that double-digit return against a Spurs team who are just absolutely woeful. So I think Luis Diaz should be higher on our priority list than others are probably perceiving, and he is currently in my team ahead of Raul Jimenez as a forward. The other two, I don't really want to go into detail, but I think Matoma is fine, but I wouldn't be having him above Luis Diaz and Mbeumo and Kluivert. And Neto, we kind of touched on Chelsea. If you want the ultimate differential this week, then yes, I get it, but I still would prefer Cole Palmer, who is on penalties. Finally, the front three. Raul Jimenez, 5.3 million. The best fixture, some would argue, away against Southampton. Now, the only reason anybody's going to go Raul Jimenez is if we get confirmation that Muniz is ruled out. If there's any chance that Muniz is available, I think you avoid Raul Jimenez because we don't know whether he starts. If he starts, he might come off after 60. And as I've spoken about, some people might go for a 3-4-3 formation and play Raul Jimenez over someone like a Luis Diaz. And then suddenly that becomes a terrible choice if Raul Jimenez goes off after 60 minutes. But if Muniz is ruled out, then the script changes. And I think Raul Jimenez becomes a fantastic pick for your teams. The only issue is the underlying numbers are a little bit ropey at times, but when he does start, the minutes are and the underlying numbers are pretty good. I think this one's all about the Muniz news, and we'll keep an eye on that. Last few. Welbeck, fantastic pick. I think his numbers are always good. His minutes would be good with João Pedro being suspended. Underrated pick this week. But would I put him ahead of Raul Jimenez, ahead of Cunha or Isak? No, I wouldn't. And the same's going to apply for Evan Nielsen. Even though the numbers are good, even though I think he's a great pick, I think I prefer Kluivert than that of Evan Nielsen because I think the forwards are really good this game week, whereas the midfielders are not as good. So that was a bit of a roundup of the remaining players. I know it's really long, but I feel like it's important when we are planning our game week 34 free hits. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's video looking at the best players to buy for game week 34. Now, I will be doing my team selection video tomorrow. Remember, my free hit is active, so make sure you do stick around for that. Drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button as always. And if you have any questions, please do pop them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them between now and the deadline. Have an amazing day, guys. Take care. See you real soon. Cheers.